So, after a few days after the events of the forms of that frustration game by the forms of this particular set, Warriors Woods, I'm feeling a lot more better and calmed down this time around though. I'm gonna tell you that right about now. Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos of course, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of NES Remakes 2 for the Nintendo Wii U eShop download. So, last time we actually be completely done with the forms of, double duo puzzle games, but in forms of both Dr. Mario, and of course we actually did manage to tackle through one of the more frustrating puzzle games I've ever played, and that's the forms of Warriors Woods, obviously. And both of those games I actually did miss out on the forms of between those two I actually missed out 5 stages by the forms of Rainbow Stars run-throughs between both, you know, Warriors Woods and of course Dr. Mario, but even then I won't get those into any of the forms of Rainbow Stars run-throughs, so this could be pretty interesting. But enough about that. So today for this episode is the fact that we're going to be hit off 2 Remakes 1 stages. Even then though, that just like before in the forms of NES Remakes 1, we'll actually start to come across into those familiar stages in the forms of any other Nintendo games, but in forms of different conditions. But even then, before we jump into this actually, is the fact that I need to double check this to see how many stems I've got by the forms of the last video, because apparently because I actually got myself a little bit of a bad tempo mood in the forms of the last video, so we haven't got that much stamps, but we've got ourselves just only 7 stamps, because even then though, that way it just makes it a little bit more of a opportunity there, so I just want to point things out right away. So anyways, let's get started by the forms of Remakes 1 stages right there. Now we've already technically done with the first level in the particular portion of Remakes 1 stage, and that's the forms of defeating, you know, 10 enemies when, you know, you become Invincible Mario, in the forms of Super Mario Bros. 3, obviously. So in stage number 2, there's the fact that we're going back into Dr. Mario, speaking of which, and in order to actually do with this particular objective is to annihilate that moving virus, which even I know is self-explanatory if you know what you're doing, including my fastest time as possible, as you can see right there. And especially noticeable how the fact that it makes it really helpful for me is the fact that obviously if I manage to achieve the Rainbow Stars ranking, that way I can get myself an additional 200 points. So that's pretty awesome indeed, and as you can tell I've got my next stamp right there by the forms of the Hammer Brothers suit for Mario for the Super Mario Bros. 3 game. So speaking of Super Mario Bros. 3, here we have the Super Mario Bros. 3 once again, but now the entire objective right there, as you can see right there, we have to ignore the clones in order to actually get to the goal right there, and I believe this level is actually based off from obviously level 1-6, because even then, as far as I can definitely tell for this particular layout, but that's just how it is for me though. Oh, I missed my timing jumps on that one, or even especially jumping onto the, that particular Koopa paratrooper right there, but I can definitely guarantee I might as well give that another try. So, yeah, it's been a long while since actually now finally coming back to this game, because obviously how the fact that, well, recently Piglet is now going to be mainly focusing on the forms of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, specifically on the Nintendo Switch version, because even then, no, because of the redo Let's Play on that, specifically the entirety of the game, but with additional content here and there in the forms of the Switch version entirely, and also, I'm assuming that Daffy is now going to be working on, you know, Kirby Mouse Attack for the Nintendo DS / Kirby Squeak Squad on the forms of the American version. But even then, I've heard that Duffy is now recently finished up with Kirby Mouse Attack kind of thing about it though, because he's already accomplished 100% on that specific game. And since after all that, after whenever he now finally finishes up with Kirby Mouse Attack, now I can finally get back into this game in particular. So even then, it's been a slight of a delay to able to come back to this game, but that's just how I think it is when it comes to Let's Plays to be like that, so okay, so after a few amount of attempts later, as you can tell for this particular objective right there, then I managed to able to done a speedrun tactics, which even then though, it's not the perfect run through I've ever done, but it's a pretty okay run as it is, because even then though, that as far as speedrun tactics as far as this is concerned, I think I did that pretty well, and pretty nicely done too. And we've got ourselves another Super Mario Bros. 3 stamp. I believe that's from Frog Mario, so, because I can tell for that, you know, the visual structure and stuff like that. So, now we move on to stage number 4, and this is what the, probably one of my favorite aspects in the forms of NES Remix 2, compared to the likes of the original NES Remix game. As you can see, we're actually going to be playing as Kirby in the forms of the Super Mario Bros. 1 environment, or in this case, to be more specifically, the forms of Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, technically speaking, because, well, what's great about this is that every single Nintendo characters usually takes place in a different universe, which even then, that's really, really awesome, and that's probably the, in my opinion though, probably the best, portion of the forms of NES Remix 2, compared to the likes of how it does in, NES Remix 1, because even then though, in NES Remix 1, it does the, some different conditions well enough, well, the one being by the forms of Link is actually traversing through Donkey Kong arcade type of game like that, or even especially noticeable that Link is traversing through 25M in Donkey Kong, and especially noticeable in the true final level in that game in the forms of, you know, 100M, which is pretty cool if you ask me, so even though, yeah. As you can see right there, we're actually moving on to stage number 5 right there, and as you can tell, we're traversing through World 5. I'm presuming this is actually based off of World 5, 5 or 4. I really can't tell which level this was from, but I do know it's in World 5, but I don't know which specific level number's named though, but even then I'm also able to research on that, so... And the interesting factor about stage number 8, stage number, stage number 5 rather, sorry for a little bit of a tangent right there, is the fact that we're playing as Princess Peach, but the forms of a Super Mario Bros. 2 style of controls for her, so... Yeah, it's interesting, kind of think about it. So anyways, now let's move on to stage number 6. We're going back to Kirby once again, but now we're defeating Wispy Words, but the difference is here is the fact that we need to keep an eye out with the forms of boos, because every time you look away with them, you know, they basically go after you, so... Not too shabby, not too difficult about this challenge though, it's because of how the fact that it's Wispy Words, probably the easiest boss in the forms of Kirby's Adventure entirely though, but that's just how it is. Is that Luigi just dropped down? Gee, I wonder why he was there. But of course I've already mentioned about this before, by the forms of, you know, this game usually marks like a continuation of the forms of Luigi's 30th anniversary during that time, well, being in forms of, you know, and we got ourselves a bomb stamp from, of course, Wario's Words. So, now let's move on to stage 7. We're going back into Super Mario Bros. 3 once again, but now we're going to traverse through the, let's just say World 1's airship level, but as you can see, everything else is speeding things up. So even then, we have to traverse for this particular level with a little bit of a different speed going, so... I will admit though right away though, that I highly recommend not to get the mushroom by the way, because if you manage to accidentally get damaged by the forms of these cannonballs, as you can see right there, granted I've almost died there, because of that though, it will able to actually just manage to get your delay of your movements, but in forms of every time you, you know, obtain a power-up and stuff like that, it sometimes delays your, you know, it always sometimes delays your speed things going, so even though that's one of pointing out right away. Stage 8, we're going on to Super Mario Bros. 2 right there, and that these two forms of collecting 5 cherries. And as you can tell, everything else is silhouette, while the only noticeable exceptions is both Mario right there, and even enemies aren't as silhouette as the ones when we actually get into the latest challenges, and even especially noticeable compared to the likes of one of those challenges in the forms of NES Remix 1, that everything else is silhouette, well, your exception being, well, obviously for this factor right there. So anyways though, as you can tell right there, I'm actually doing a little bit mixed bag with Mario though, because there were a few times though that I was still so used to with the forms of, let's just say Luigi and Princess Peach most of the time, because even then though, with Princess Peach, you can able to hover for a certain amount of time, and especially noticeable that Luigi can jump way higher than Mario was, so it's one important things out right away, so... Right now, I keep on failing for this particular challenge, actually, because there were a few times, though, I keep on running to those enemies so many goddamn times, especially for Shy Guys, for instance, but even though that's as far as I can tell for this little stimulating stuff goes, so let's... Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Hey, not doing too well, I'm afraid, guys, but even though that's only because of how the fact that, well, Yeah, you get the idea. Okay, so let's go and get these last few cherries. How do I miss that? I'm presuming I might not get the rainbow stars on that one because I seriously screwed over for my jumps like that. So, yeah, there goes the rainbow star on that one. So, in fact, I'm also able to come back for that later for this video because, seems like we're doing so far so well in the forms of the rainbow stars rankings in the forms of remakes one set of stages, compared to the likes of the remakes one set of stages in the first game, that normally some of these challenges in the first game is normally ridiculously overly challenging as far as getting the rainbow stars are concerned. So here we go with stage number 9 really quickly, is that we're going back into Kirby once again for a third time in a row, but this time we need to able to anticipate it by the forms of the egg catcher minigame, and in order to actually success for this challenge is to able to obtain 20 eggs, and if you do that, then you would able to achieve the challenge no problem. But here's the thing is the fact that every time you catch an egg, the image or especially the video quality will start to zoom in for quite a few seconds notice every time you catch one of those eggs. And we've especially noticeable how the fact that how ridiculously difficult it can get, because there were a few times though you easily catch the bomb so easily though, and if you touch the bomb by complete accident, then you have to restart for this particular sequence again. So that's as far as memories goes as far as I'm aware. So moving on to stage 10, and just like before in the forms of NES Remakes 1, and are you serious? Jeez. Come on. Okay, just pull up 2 ways. Yeah, thank you game, I've already just know. Alright, if I don't get it this time, I was gonna say screw it and just trying to able to actually keep on restarting this, because I just really think that sometimes this game can get pretty precise with controls in this, sometimes with the forms of Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Super Mario USA sometimes, because there were a few times though, if you manage to come across into the smaller platforms, if you couldn't tell right there, it always lose my footings as you can tell right there, so that's as far as I can make the consumption with this, with that being in mind. So anyways though, as I was saying, stage number 10, very much like the likes of most of those compilation stages in the forms of NES Remakes 1, is the fact that we're going through serious amount of challenges with the forms of different franchises of different games, and as far as I'm aware, and basically, we're actually going to go through, like, for instance, in this first compilation stage, in fact, I did screw it up for this particular stage so miserably, but I think there's a reason being for that is because, well, what I found is kind of odd, though, when it comes to playing as Princess Peach in the forms of Super Mario Bros. 3's portions of these challenges like this. Normally in Super Mario Bros. 2, whenever you play as Peach, oh, there's 8-bit Luigi starts to be running about, which even then, that he immediately got away, so even then, there's no way I can catch him up. But the last portion of this particular compilation is definitely beat Boom Boom with this little spotlight. So, anyways though, thank you for that rainbow stars right there, game, thank you very much. And we've actually unlocked stages 10 through 12 now, so it seems to be more accurately, we're actually on the halfway portion of the forms of unlocking certain stages in Remakes 2 stages, and there's Princess Peach stamp. Now I believe that stamp is based off from Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, because I can definitely tell you why. After this video anyway, when we're able to actually get into Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Levels until eventually, but not now though. Stage 11, we're going on to Kirby's environment, but in forms of playing as Toad to able to actually just to deal with all the enemies. So that's very cool, especially noticeable. It's a bit like how it does in the forms of the Super Smash Bros. Melee, for instance. That in the forms of the adventure mode, by the way, that you normally depends on what Nintendo characters you select. It's really cool how the fact that every single Nintendo-based characters in the Super Smash Bros. Melee, and we've got an energy tank from Metroid. So, how about that then, but in forms of stamps-wise. Stage 12 is that we're going back into Super Mario Bros. 3 once again, but this time around though, everything else is entirely in silhouette now, so even then though that, don't expect it how the fact that, well, if you manage to get hit by an enemy, you have to restart the entire level again, so I just want to be cautious with that. So, and also I just realized about something, is that these scorecards also got blacked out for a little bit right there, so even then I was able to actually notice things out. Okay, let's go ahead. Oh my god, don't you dare screw my jumps. If that jump screws me off, if I did not get the rainbow stars in that one, I'll not be happy. Okay, I'll take it. I'll definitely take it, despite the fact that I've messed up my jumps completely though. I will admit though, for this little tiny small extent, but at least we can able to cope with this. And still so close to get that next damn stamp. Like, I was off by 7 points. But don't worry, after this challenge though anyway. Stage 13 is the fact that we need to able to only use one button in this, excuse me, we only have to use one button, and that's the forms of the B button, because if you can tell, we need to use the fireball ability to able to defeat 6 enemies. And if you do that, then chances are your mission is accomplished. So that's pretty simple, self-explanatory right there, but there are a few times though I might as well get screwed over by the forms of certain enemy dropping animations. Now the fact that I did almost waste my time right there, please tell me it's a rainbow. Thank you. Thank God I don't have to deal with this again. If I manage to mess up for that rainbow stars on that specific run through on that stage, then I'm also able to actually get myself a little bit of a screen nuke. And we've got ourselves a Metroid stamp, which is obvious for this particular belongings to, which is, you know, Metroid. So I know I apologize for my lack of dialogue is going really corny in some areas because of how the fact that, wow, it's been a couple of days since I've actually gone back into this particular game at long last, because, you know, after the events of, Kirby Mouse Attack. Although, Piglet does still need to get back into Captain Toad Treasure Tracker at one point, so even then, hopefully you can get back into that. In fact, I keep on slipping up at this particular point in Dr. Mario. Speaking of Dr. Mario, stage number 14 is the fact that we need to able to annihilate every single virus first, but every time you drop a pill or something like that, or the capsule I should say, the color schemes is now in black and white, or in this case, a Game and White, or in this case, the Game Boy, formation, which even then, though, that does look pretty promising throughout, but even then, though, it's just one of those things of how the fact that I'm more able to get slipped up at one point or another, like, you can definitely tell why until then. Okay, so, thankfully, we've almost done here. Okay, just one more capsule left. Oh, shoot! Damn you, Game Boy color scheme, because even then, though, you almost attempt to confuse me or whatever. It's like, it's so hard to tell. Well, I do know one of them is actually pretty easy to spot, but it forms of the red color, because in the red color, that it usually gets like a darker color tone with the forms of that capsule. But the only difficult ones I feel like, but in forms of both yellow and blue ones, because it almost feels identical between the two, but the only ones you need to be very careful of is the forms of the actual color detail, with the forms of, as long as you recognize them, and then every time you, do so, then don't get messed up by the forms of the Game Boy's, visual tone or something like that, by the forms of the capsule structure-wise. So, there we go, we've now finally concluded done with stage 14, and conveniently enough, we actually got rainbow stars on that, so fantastic. And we've got, I believe that's actually a Chozo statue in the forms of, from Metroid as well. So, let's move on to stage 15. Defeats the invisible Birdo. Seems more likely to the task here, so let's go ahead and, that was a really bad start, so, I might as well get to restart this, because even though that was a really bad attempt for starters, though, anyway. I will admit that right away, though. And, yeah, she's actually not that bad. It's just that you have to keep an eye out with the forms of the visual structure for her, so just in case if you actually see the actual, silhouette of her, well, she was still invisible for the entire time, and then you would able to defeat her no problem, so how about that? Please tell me I've got a rainbow on that one, because I can definitely guarantee. Thank you. Alright, so we've only got 5 more stages left in the forms of remakes one set of stages not too long ago. So even then though, that we've pretty much, I would say we've almost at the halfway point of NES Remakes 2 actually, because even then though, that, oh, we've got ourselves a Shark Guy stamp. Alright then, so now let's move on to stage number, after this little sequence is done. Stage number 16, we're going on to, I would say Super Mario Bros. 3 because of the forms of the Mario Bros. Portion, and by the looks of it though, we need to defeat 5 Spinies. But here's the thing though, is that just like the ones in one of those challenges in the forms of, Mario Bros. As you can tell right there, be sure you need to get used to with the forms of the doppelgangers of yourself, because if you do that, then you would able to do that no problem. Well, except, thankfully, the physics and controls are a lot more better than the likes of the original Mario Bros., that's for sure. That's only because of how the fact that my momentum on jumps can get really screwy in some areas, so here's the next stamp right there, by the forms of Kirby. And speaking of Kirby, we're going back into Kirby's Adventure once again, but this time around though, we're going on to this specific section right there, by the forms of stage number 17, is that we're going to traverse for this particular section, while Kirby does not even to exhale, so even then though, this means he's completely invulnerable to something like that, or maybe something's worth mentioning is that with a no damage run syndrome, so even then though, because as you can see on the text right there, get to the exit without being hit. So I think the only difficult part about this mission though is the fact that this Waddle Dee right there always attempt to screw me over for some point or another. That's only because of how the fact that they always pop out of nowhere every time whenever it starts to speed things up a little bit right there. But it's one of those things that how the fact that the game sometimes tricks me, but in forms of you know, Waddle Dee's movements, and sometimes my jumps can get sometimes a little bit of a more of a delay going on there, but as long as I can able to get used to it at this point, but even I know this as far as I might as well consider this the fact. And it looks like the visual structure in this particular stage right there is that, yet again, it feels remarkably similar to how it does it whenever I played Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy, which even then, seriously, there's gonna be a lot of challenges like this compared to the likes of the original NES remakes. But it forms about the fact that in some of these remake set of stages, and speaking of Kirby, we got ourselves the Inhaled Exhale Kirby right there, but it forms of that specific stuff as soon as you're able to swallow stuff. Sorry for a little bit of a lack of dialogue for this point, folks, especially with this lazy, downright, forgettable writing. But I digress. Oh, talk about the devil, we're going back into Warriors Woods yet again. Oh boy. Oh. I can't stress that enough how much the fact that how frustrating that game could be. But anyway, I digress. But at least in this particular challenge, it's somewhat a little bit more passable, or especially noticeable by the forms. I don't think it's that much intrusive. It's the fact that obviously we need to able to actually just defeat, well, Green Toad, because if you couldn't tell already, we're actually going to be compete against with the computer opponents. So, I should probably explain this actually. It's the fact that I did recently, I think it was back in a long time ago, actually. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I've got one creature left. Back in during the likes of 2009, ironically, I've managed to go up this game in the forms of Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console, ironically, because even then, though, I might be very curious to try this out for myself. And there goes, and yet another Rainbow Star on that one. But that's only 2 stages we've got, but in forms of missing Rainbow Star runs. So, hopefully we'll get back to those 2 at one point. Shouldn't take that long. Stage number 19, we're going back into Super Mario Bros. 2 yet again, but this time we need to enter the door on the other side. Oh god, I remember dreading this event so much, or even this mission for this matter, because of this annoying panzers right there, which not only it just makes you a bad enemy placement right there, but it's also because if you manage to get hit by the panzers, which is probably the most, you know, the most annoying enemies in this particular game, is the fact that you get yourselves a knockback every time you get hit by certain enemy contact here and there, which is always really, really annoying. And I'm presuming this level usually takes place in World 6, if I could be expecting so, because even I know, yeah. And here's the thing though, is the fact that if you want to able to survive for this particular location like this, well, there's actually a little bit of a black lidded light right there, as far as I'm aware for that. So, but anyways, after there's all the amount of experience I've had with this mission, I'm pretty much done with this, no problem. So, how about that then? Huh? Please tell me I've got the rainbow. Yes! Thank goodness I don't have to touch that specific challenge again. Well, until whenever I play myself Ultimate NES remakes on my own time on my 3DS. So there's our Meta Knight stamp, the All Glory Meta Knight. Well, conveniently enough though, he was actually a lot smaller compared to the likes of how it does it in the forms of the future Kirby games, starting from, you know, Kirby Superstar and onwards. So yeah, that's as far as I mostly can subs with this. So here we go, on to the final stage in Remake's one set of stages, and once again we got ourselves a compilation stages, but this time around though, we've already had 6 of them. So, the first one is very simple, we need to able to descent with our Paracel Kirby without taking any damage, which is pretty obvious. And without that, well, this thing is constantly turning the light on and off, so even then though that we have to pay attention to that, so yeah, this mission's not that noticeable, I don't feel like, well, at least until when we get to the couple of objectives later. So, collect 10 coins in Super Mario Bros. 3 with the, oh, that was a really bad fail there right there. I will admit though, right away though, for that specific point. So, yeah, let's try that again. Looks like so far so good, and we might as well get the last few coins. Yeah, screw that one up, because it's nothing worth it. Nothing worth it for that specific one-up for that specific point. Okay, hold and release A to pick up Kirby. I highly suggest you pick up the smaller plushie of Kirby rather than the big one, because if you manage to get screwed over by the forms of that one specific drop, you're pretty much done for, so it's one of pointing out. make poor Luigi lost alive. So, what is this, like the original Mario Brothers all over again? I wasn't gonna say that much until now. So, let's go ahead and just, I don't know why I just killed myself there. Oh, I do know what the actual point of this, though, is the fact that I might as well do this strategy real quickly. So, there we go. Your life is history, Luigi. You and Luigi's now over. Well, technically there's a 35th anniversary of Luigi, as far as I'm aware for that still, so specifically we're still in 2018 at the moment, so you know, you get the idea. Alright, Run Kirby defeats 9 enemies as you expected from any other, like, let's just say Super Mario Bros. Type missions in the forms of Run Mario Run syndrome, or in this case Run Luigi Run. Missions like that is the fact that your character moves automatically, and the sixth and the final segment in the forms of this particular compilation stages is the forms of Ignore the Clones and Defeat Bodo, just like the ones in the forms of the first or the third level in the forms of Remakes 1 stages. So there we go. And speaking of which, we've actually completely done with Remakes 1 set of stages, and even then, it's almost in a perfect run-through, actually. There are 2 stages exceptions, but in forms of, let's just say, 1 stage from, you know, Super Mario Bros. 2, and 1 stage from Wario's Woods. So, yeah, we've got ourselves a King Dedede stamp. So, yeah, we've actually unlocked even more stages in Remakes 2, so we've actually got 2 more unlockable stages in the forms of Remakes 2 stages, so even then, we've pretty much almost done here. So, yeah, let's just say we'll go and head back into stage number 8 real quickly and able to anticipate it for, you know, the better attempt on that specific run-through, but in forms of the Rainbow Stars run-through, so let's get started right there. So, because of that, though, I don't really find these challenges to be that long to begin with, though, I will admit, though, right away, though. Certainly, it feels a little bit more shorter than the likes of NES Remakes 1, that's for my circumstances, in the forms of the amount of stages you have to go to. Oh, speaking of such, though, it's the fact that between, you know, Remakes 1 and especially Remakes 2 stages, both of those catalogs usually has like 20 stages instead of 25, unlike the ones in the first NES Remakes game, so it's one pointing out right away. So let's see what's the next stamp we've got, and it looks like we've got ourselves a Crane Machine Claw from, you know, Kirby's Adventures, you know, crane game. Okay, quicker right there. I have to do this like a, the third attempt on this, because even then I have been really struggling with this. Although, kind of the convenience about this is the fact that I did done this as the first attempt, but unfortunately though, I was so close to get the Rainbow Stars on that one, because the only thing you need to be right on for is the fact that you need to be really, really fast on that specific moments when if you're trying to able to get rid of this monster during time. Well, to be more specifically, but in forms of Toad's movements and stuff like that. But as long as you're able to get the hang of it, like I just did right there, I think I probably guarantee to get the Rainbow Stars on that one. I'm really hoping I could able to get this. Please be it. Phew! I think I managed to win this by 1 split second, I'm presuming. But even then, that's my only conception to this, though, on the other hand. So let's see what's the next stamp we've got. I'm presuming that's a Warp Star of any kind from Kirby's Adventure, because of that specific for this matter. So there we go, folks. We've actually rainbowed everything in the forms of Remakes 1 stages. So yeah, how about that then? Let's just say, you know, after the events of the forms of Super Mario Bros. 3, that I've pretty much rainbowed everything on that game. And then we actually got ourselves the second catalog in the forms of rainbowed everything on that. So everything else will be just as comfortable as I was hoping it will be. So hey, at least we only got just only 1 Warrior Woods stage. That's for my credits due for that specific points there. So let's see how much stamps I've collected in this video. So we've got 9 from that specific page. So 9 and 10, so that makes 19 stamps. Jeez, that's quite a lot of stamps we've actually collected by this point. Folks. Sorry for a little bit of a tangent right there. So with that being said, folks, we have to end things off for this point right there. So join me next time on Let's Play NES Remakes 2 for the Nintendo Wii U eShop download version. Is the fact, well, to be more specifically, just the download exclusive, because in the North American version, much like the original NES Remakes 1, normally this game does have a physical release between NES Remakes 1 and 2, all in one unique package in the forms of Japan and North American only. So, anyways though, it's the fact that we're going to be heading off to Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Levels, and Kid Icarus for next time around though for NES Remakes 2 Let's Play. So yeah, see you guys next time for that. Later, fellas.